So to paint the sky, what I want you to do is I want you to kind of use your fan brush as a shovel. You're going to get a lot of white paint out. And you're going to take that paint and you're just going to paint it down on that top part of the paper, about the top third. Now, that's not going to be enough paint. You're going to have to shovel up some more. And you're just painting that white across the page, all the way to the edge. That's why the newspaper underneath is a good thing. Now, that white paint's pretty thick, you guys. So you want to go ahead and tip into some water so that paint flows. If your brush starts to kind of drag through the paint or the paint gets fuzzy, tip into some more water, tip into some more paint. You need enough paint down so that you can blend the blue color into it in just a minute. Okay, atmospheric perspective tells us that our color values are going to be lightest at the horizon line, and our values are going to darken as we move either down or up the page. So our darkest blue is going to be up here. Our lightest value, almost white, is going to be at the horizon line. So I'm going to touch into some blue paint with my fan brush. I don't clean my brush off at all. I leave that white paint on there, and I put about, yeah, you can see how much paint there is. I probably tipped into about a third of the brush, not a whole lot. Keep the paint, at the blue paint at the top of the page, and start stroking back and forth. Now, as you stroke back and forth, you're going to press down harder, and that's going to kind of blend the paint. Once you get to the edges, you guys, just go in one direction. That gives you a lighter touch. It lets you feather it a little bit more. And then as you move down the page, you shouldn't have quite as much blue in your brush, and so it's going to get lighter. Keep the streaks. Don't work it so hard that you blend out the streaks. You can touch into a tiny bit more blue if you like, but not much. A lot of student artists have a real tendency to make the sky way too blue. The sky is not as blue as you think it is. All right, and so as I start to get it kind of the way I want, I will lighten up my touch and just go in one direction. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. I like all the streaks in it. That kind of looks like you've got some of those real high cirrus clouds in it. If you feel like you've gotten a little too much blue, you guys, no worries. Pick up some more white, just blend it in. Just blend it in. You really don't want to spend too much time on the sky. A minute, minute and a half, you should be done. Any more stroking across, you guys, and you're just going to blend the blue out too much. Now, you can be kind of fancy at this point if you want to add a little bit of red to it. Again, I haven't cleaned my brush off at all. I'm just tipping into the red along with the white and the blue. I'm going to make this look like it's a sunrise or a sunset. And I'm going to put that red right here at the horizon line. My paint is still wet, so I can really streak it nicely. And just using this bottom half of my fan brush, I'm going to kind of blend it up into the sky. Now by this point, my paint is starting to set up a little bit, so adding a little bit of water is a good idea. You want it really streaky. You want it, the value concentrated in the center, because that would be where the sun is rising and setting. But you want to have a little bit of that red kind of working its way up like it's catching the bottom of some clouds. So that looks pretty good. Pink is okay. If it gets too pink, if it gets too red, add a little white. Add a little white. It's your call. Now when I paint the sky, I tend to like to use my brush this way. So I'm painting back and forth this way. Sometimes I'll kind of get on the chisel if I want some really skinny streaks and go this way. But for the most part, to blend it, I go back and forth like this. So there's kind of the color we want in the sky. Let's add some clouds. All right, so we're going to do some clouds, and we're going to do what's called scumbling. Kind of a weird word. What I want you to do is I want you to take that fan brush, and I want you to tip it into your white paint, so about half of the brush has white paint on it. You guys see that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the top of the clouds, and I want to kind of think kind of a loose triangle-y shape. And I'm going to start at the top. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the side of my brush, and doing little C strokes, I'm just going to paint a cloud. This is called scumbling. I'm kind of on the side of my brush like this. I do maybe 6 or 7 C strokes, and then I tip into more paint. Because again, my sky is kind of wet, and so my paint will blend out pretty fast. So I've already tipped into my paint about, gosh, what, 7 times now? I don't know, a bunch. If you want your clouds really white, you've got to have a lot of fresh paint. All right, and so there's my cloud. Kind of nice and puffy. You can even get really fancy with it and kind of show how maybe the jet stream is kind of pulling the bottom of the clouds. You know how it blows through the bottom of the clouds? Get on the chisel edge of your brush and kind of streak it a little bit like this. That's kind of a nice look. You can see I just kind of rocked back and forth with it. And you could do some more clouds if you like. Now, if you start pulling some clouds down here, you guys, then you want to do them smaller. So you really got to get on the edge of that fan brush to kind of scumble them. But again, since we're talking perspective, as your clouds get closer to the horizon line, they get smaller. Okay, that's that 1-point perspective happening. And you can have them overlap if you like. Now, that's not the only way to do clouds. There's some other ways you can do clouds. And I'm kind of done with my fan brush for right now, so I'm going to wash it off and put it aside. Okay. Another way to do clouds is instead of, you can stipple. Now, this is really hard on your round brush, so you want to use a trashy round brush. So a brush that you're not going to use for nice, pointed, or very fine lines. But same kind of thing, you're going to use the white. You're going to tip into your white paint. Chances are you're going to get too much. So it's usually a good idea to tap it a couple of times on your paper towel until you get it kind of loose and airy the way you want. This is almost like dry brushing, but not quite as dry. And then you're going to use that same kind of shape, kind of that cascading down triangle-y shape, and you're going to start tapping. Now again, you're going to run out of paint pretty quickly. You can always tap back on your paper towel because chances are you have a little bit of paint on your paper towel.
My paper's too wet.
Yeah, if your paper's too wet, you got to let it dry. If you need it brighter, then you're going to have to tap into a little bit more paint. But again, keep it loose and airy. Let some of the blue show through. I'll be honest, that's not the way I like to do clouds. I almost always scumble my clouds. Now, the most fun way to do this is finger painting. Okay, so we're going to finger paint. So take your white paint, tip your ring finger in there. You probably want to tap it one time on your paper towel, and then just tap on your paper. And it makes a nice kind of lacy, puffy Joy.
I'm noticing that it slides a lot.
What slides?
Like when it slides.
Oh, well, don't. Just tap. Just tap. No. Instead of, Joey, look at this. Instead of doing this, put your hand down like this and just tap. There you go. That'll keep you. Now you can lift up the palm a little bit. That's okay. Yeah, a lot of people do, and you guys, that's a perfectly okay way to make some nice clouds in your sky. So you can experiment with that because, oh gee, one of your assignments is going to be clouds in the sky. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.